Right guys, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video I'm just going to be talking a little bit of the camera, and I'm also going to be showing you a little project that I've been working on. So to begin with then, I just want to thank everyone who has watched this video. Okay, we had over 100 views in less than 24 hours, so that means a lot. I also want to thank everyone who has joined from the subreddit, okay, the C programming subreddit. That community is amazing. Reddit can normally be a toxic place. Everyone voices their opinions, which is why Reddit is great. But then it can also be a bit discouraging if you're a newbie like myself. But I thought I had a bit of insight, considering I've been learning C from start, from scratch for 30 days, um, and I felt like I had some experience to give on learning. And some people were giving some interesting points. Some people were saying that it's good that I realised this so early on in my learning C journey, in my C programming journey. Other people, were saying, what's wrong with AI, and so on and so forth. And someone called me out on the fact that my thumbnails are actually AI generated, and they are. So if you have a problem with that, I apologize, but I just haven't got the skill set to kind of make thumbnails. So anyway, the main thing I want to talk about in this video then is the to-do list project that I've been working on. Okay, so a few weeks back I took on the challenge of learning how to create a to-do list. I've learned C list from creating all the different functions that go into that, and I was quite happy with that. And I thought that I'll try and use this in a project, and I quickly got put off. And the reason why I got put off is because, and that's where one of my bits of advice came in the last video, and I'd encourage you to go watch it, is the fact that when you watch video walkthroughs, I was seeing people do their own to-do lists in ways that I've never seen before, using maybe header files that I've never seen before, or using functions that I've never seen before, or using different methods that I've never seen before, and it became overwhelming. Quickly became very overwhelming. And I guess this is something that I didn't say yesterday, but it's something I'll say now. I think sometimes it's best to stick to what you know and take the long path, and then over time you'll learn about the efficient ways of doing things. Um, People may disagree. People may say, okay, you should always find the efficient way, but I just feel like you can't do that. You have to be kind of stupid in the way you go about things before you can improve and start to realize the error of your ways. So I guess what I'm trying to say is learn the basics very well. The fancy stuff can come after. And just don't be put off by the fact that you may be doing something in a different way to someone else. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think that's a great way of going about things, because it's very honest and true to what you've learned. It's not to say you may come across mistakes, but that's just part of programming. The next thing I want to say is the use of AI, because I said in my video not to use AI, and I said on the Reddit, the post that I made as well, about not using AI, and some people were saying that they were using AI. And I just want to make it clear that it is a great tool. It is a brilliant tool, and it's a tool that should be used because we've got access to it. And if you don't get to know how to use it, you're going to fall behind in general, I suppose. But when you're learning a language, sometimes you can overly rely on it, and I think that's a terrible thing. I've used AI. Okay, I just want to make that clear. I have used AI in the past month. I got to be completely honest. I have, not in the way that I used to. I used to go in VS Code and like kind of tap my way through problems, and that led me to spending hours on debugging then, and it just caused more issues. I've used it where I've kind of tried everything, I can't figure it out, and there's no online guidance to help me with my issue. It's like a tailored AI kind of programming coach, if you will. If you don't have somebody to look over your stuff, it's like a buddy that you can kind of rely on to have a look over and explain problems to you as well, and explain why the way you were doing it before doesn't make sense. That's brilliant. You'd be stupid not to use it. That being said, just be careful you don't over rely on it, and the onus is on you then to kind of decide when you kind of crossing that boundary. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to talk about my new project, or the to-do list project. It's not completed, but the files are uploaded on GitHub. I'll leave a link in the description below about my GitHub page, and I'll carry on now with the video. But thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye now. Right, okay, and welcome to this video. We're going to be looking at my to-do application. So let's have a little look, then we'll go open up the file. Okay, so I'm going to talk through it. Okay, this is not going to be a video of me programming, sadly. Again, work's been pretty hectic for me, and the weekends also. So this is just me doing it in my own downtime when I have time, but not time to record. Right, so it's very similar to what you would have seen before. So if you haven't watched my linked list videos, I'd encourage you to go watch them, because I created a linked list from start to finish, and you can see me kind of explaining it in my own way, which may not be correct, but I feel like as an amateur, as a beginner, I kind of explained it and how I was interpreting things. or how I thought the computer was interpreting things. So you can see a lot of the stuff that you would have seen before. So delete task is effectively just deleting an item in the list. So deleting a specific item. Pop in is removing the first item. I'm only using that as a means to kind of remove the first item of the list in my delete task. So I'm not using this in the main function necessarily. Okay, pop, for those of you who don't know, just removes the first item of a list. And I'm not using that in my main function. It's just a way to say, look, if the index is 0 when they're typing in an item, technically 1 if it's the first item in the list, just remove the head and just get rid of the list. Effectively, that's what it's doing. If I go further up, then you can see that we have add task. Now, add task is effectively allowing me to just add a new item to the list. I had, if you followed along with the first video that I kind of created about prepending and appending to a linked list, you would have noticed that in the main function I created items already. I didn't in the linked list, in the to-do list application, obviously, because it's just not the case where you have a to-do list, you don't just have items there already. So what I done is I just said, okay, we're saying that if the head task is equal to null, then set the head to the value that's inserted, and then set next to null. Otherwise, kind of walk through the list until you're at the end. Okay, so that's what that's doing. Print list is the same old thing, it's just printing the list, and we got a struct node, which has just got a task and the address to the next node. Now, something I do want to say as well, okay, is you would add more there, okay? I know that. I'm very aware that you would add more to this struct, okay? And that is something that I'm going to do. It's not complete yet. But effectively, I've got a task there, which is a character array. And I have a struct node, which is struct nodes, is recursively calling on the next node. So, as for the functions, that's it, okay? The first thing I've done in the main program, which I don't know if it was necessary, but I did it in my old one, so I thought I may as well. Effectively, I've just created a new node type, which I knew I had to do, set it to null, and I've said, I could have done this probably in a function, I don't think it would have made any difference, but then I set the head to, I could have called it like initialize first node or something like that. I'm allocating memory for the node, and then I'm setting the task and the next node to null. So everything's set to null effectively, okay? Int option equals 0. Now this is a good point actually where I did use AI, okay? So I was coming across an issue, and it was actually nothing to do with this, but I just thought I'd mention it anyway. I had initially, so I'll show you where I had int option like this. Oops. I had int option just like that. But what I found is, and this is actually an interesting thing again, it just goes to show how good AI is if you use it correctly, is if you were to do that, it stores garbage in that particular address in memory. And it could happen to be 6, it could happen to be 42, it could be whatever, okay? So you should always, if you're going to use a kind of a dummy variable in order to exit an application, then you should set it to a specific number or value there then, so that it doesn't do that. But anyway, so that's what that's doing. I'm saying while option is not equal to 6, then they're going to be presented with 2 options. So add a task and delete a task. That's all I've added so far. Pardon me. And also leave the application now, which is going to be 6. I do scanf, which is that me taking an input from the user, and then of course, and this is something which I don't know if I've explained before. I think I did in the scanf input output video, so you can go watch that if you want a bit of an explanation on it. If you're wondering what this does, though, effectively scanf is taking an input from the user, but when we take input in for the user, it takes everything. Okay, and it stores it in an input buffer. So what do I mean by it takes everything? Well, if I type in something, Joseph is whatever, we'll use that as an example. Scanf will only take the first word up until the white space, but in the input buffer will be a space, is, and then a space and whatever, and then enter as well would also be stored in the input buffer, okay? So why is that an issue? Well, if I clicked enter, if I just typed in task or whatever and I clicked enter, the new line would be stored in the input buffer, and it would take then the input, the next value of the input buffer in the next part of the program, and that's something that we don't want to do. So this is just clear in the input buffer, okay? So while get char is getting each character in the input buffer is not equal to new line, so it's clearing everything up until I clicked enter. That's what that's doing. So that clears the input buffer. Then if it's 1, so if they're adding a task, we ask them to enter the task. I create a variable over here. This variable is called value. It takes 20 characters. Okay. fgets is saying, right, okay, where are we storing it? How many characters? What's the size of it? And what file? Now, this is something that, again, something I need to look into, but something that we discussed in the last video. But fgets is effectively allowing us to take a string, meaning scanf only takes one word effectively. Fgets will take whatever it is you've typed in, so it'll take the whole line effectively. So what I've done then is, I've a roundabout way. stdin is a file, and that's where it's all getting stored in. I believe that is my interpretation of it, but that is something I'll brush up on. It doesn't matter because I have an understanding of what it's doing anyway, I suppose, but not as great as I would like to. The next thing we do then is similar to what we've done up here with while get char. So we're effectively removing, although it does take the whole line, it still has new lines. So we're replacing that, effectively saying value, and then it's whatever the new line is. This is effectively indexing in the character array value. We're going through until we reach a new line, and we're replacing it with the null terminator. So effectively just stripping the new line from the end of it. So then we say add task. The head is what our list is, our to-do list, and then value is what we're sending through to it. So that will just add whatever they put in to our to-do list. Right, okay, so the next bit then, else if. This is where effectively we are taking in option 2, so we're going to delete now. So I print the list first, and I say enter the index that you would like to delete. This is where it would be nice to have like an ID value associated with each value in the list. That would take a bit of brain work to figure out how to do it. Obviously, whenever they add a value, they get an associated number with it, and it increments every time. But then what happens if it gets deleted? You'd have to go over it. So something I need to look into. It'd be an interesting challenge. So anyway, they enter an index. We create an index variable. We take input. We store that value in index. And then we -1 from whatever it is they put, because the user is just going to say the first item in my list. Especially when I add the IDs, that's what they're going to say. So we do minus equals. So effectively, it's using 0-based index for behind the scenes, but the user can input, just type in 1. Same as before then, we do while get char is not equal to n, just stripping away the last bit of scanf effectively. And then we're just saying you have deleted the task, and then we call delete task, and delete task will print off the task that they deleted as well, because it returns a value. Whilst the loop is exited, then we just leave. Okay, so this will all be uploaded to the GitHub repository. So if you want to kind of follow along or play around with it, you can. And if you could add stuff to it, actually, that'd be great. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what people can do to make this a bit better. But again, the main bits of advice I'd like to carry on from what I was talking about earlier is AI is fine. Okay, use it wisely, but it's a tool that must be used. I've seen someone in the subreddit say, yeah, it's like a chainsaw. You know, if you're going to use it wisely. You know, if you don't use it wisely, you can go, catastrophically wrong. So just make sure you're using it wisely. That's fine. But make sure you have a good understanding of everything you're doing. And that's something I can say. Actually, that's a good point. Something I wanted to talk about. Kind of brushed over earlier. Is the delete task. Okay, so right, I won't go over. Well, I can go over it all if you'd like. But I think I actually breezed over this one. But asserts. So in the header files, you would have seen I added asserts. This is something I wanted to play around with, and I said in the README file on GitHub. So assert head is not equal to null. So effectively, what I'm saying with asserts, you effectively give it you specify if it is. So for example, if head is not equal to null, that's positive, that's good. If it goes against the assert, then it will raise an error, and it'll purposely crash the program. That's great for if you encountered issues or where logic has gone wrong. But something may carry on in your program. Okay, so if I didn't have these two here and I probably did enter something, the program might not have crashed. So it's really important that you add asserts. At least I've seen this on the Lex Friedman podcast, in all honesty. It's just something I want to play around with, in all honesty. It's something I want to learn a bit more. So maybe I'll do a separate video on that next time. But yeah, asserts are very good for debugging and looking over issues in your program. So I'm going to keep doing that and keep adding them in. and I'll have to have a little think about what I can add to this to-do application. But if you've got any questions, if you've got any queries, or if you've got any ideas on what I can add, let me know. That'd be great. I probably will end it here now, because I don't think there's any more I want to talk on. This delete task function is the exact same, by the way, from the video you've seen. Something I have said is return. I've given it a string. I didn't have an error for that, but I've not tested it. I think it does work though. Actually, in fact, that's something I should probably do, is kind of show you guys how it works, because I haven't even gone over that. So if we do 1 and we say enter the task, create a new list, and then again, something I should do is be able to view all the tasks or add priorities. That might be a good one. And let's say I want to print all the list, and then I add another task, say, I don't know, delete the task. And then if I go to 2 then, which is going to delete the task, and then I press 2, this should delete print all the list. So if I click 2 again to delete the task, you can see that's gone then. So yeah, as I was saying anyway, that's how that works. So yeah, I don't think I've covered a great deal in this video, as much as I would have liked to anyway. But the main things I would get across is the fact that I'm trying to work with asserts more. I'm working on this little project on the side because I find it quite fun, in all honesty. And it's quite nice to put something you've learned, a theoretical concept you've learned, and applying it and putting it into practice. It's taught me a lot about memory, how pointers work. I've come across a lot of issues. I've resolved the issues. It's fun. Problem solving is fun. Learning programming is fun. Learning C is very, very fun. I talked a little bit in yesterday's video about my goals, and one goal that I really, really would like to accomplish is to work with STM32s. Some embedded stuff, for those of you who don't know, and embedded is just working with hardware. I played around with a lot of Raspberry Pi stuff, and it's a little bit different because it's Python based, although you can do C on there as well. I understand that. Not done much of Arduinos. I understand that's like very similar to Raspberry Pis, but I just want to kind of get familiar with, working with hardware, the low level program stuff. Over time, that will make more and more sense, of course, as we go through. But yeah, that's it. That's all I want to cover. I just want to thank everybody, and I mean this, everybody who's watched any of the videos, anyone who's left a comment, anyone who's kind of supported me, commented, liked, kind of, made posts on the subreddit and so on. It just means so much to me. So grateful for you all. And I'm just so excited for the next 30 days. And hopefully I can just keep on doing these recaps and recover, like kind of look back on what I've learned. And if it ever comes to the point where, I've not learned something, or my learning has slowed down, it'll just be a wake-up call for me to just kind of get myself into gear, so to speak. So yeah, that's where I see things going. That's my plans. I plan on taking this learning as far as I can. And who knows, maybe, I'll do programming in C for 6 months and I'll feel like I want another challenge. I want to go into something else, and that's fine. But I'm enjoying it at the moment, and I'm really liking this lower level idea of programming, although I haven't really gone that deep into it at the moment. But it's just really fun. I do get a kick out of this. So again, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for supporting me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.